Two Chairs No Waiting, episode number 283, News of Cast and Crew, from the eBullet, May 2014. Two Chairs No Waiting is brought to you each week by the fine folks over at Weaver's Department Store. Drop by over at Weaver's and pick up some of the amazing things they have there. They have all kinds of stuff Mayberry fans would enjoy. So drop by over and just browse around. Tell Mr. Weaver, hey, and that Floyd sent you. WeaversDepartmentStore.com. Two Chairs No Waiting is also brought to you by donations from listeners just like you. And executive producer of episode number 283 is Bess Metro. Bess Metro. I hope I said your name right, Bess, but thank you for being the executive producer of this episode of Two Chairs No Waiting. I'm Alan Newsom, your host for Two Chairs No Waiting, and it's always a great time for me to be able to spend just a few minutes in Mayberry with you each week. And so I want to thank you for coming by and just being part of the show. It is, I look forward to it every week. It's always a little bit hard to come up with new topics to talk about, but this week is one of my lazy weeks, I guess you'd say, because we're using content that I didn't even have to do. This is the eBullet. That's right, the eBullet from May 2014, which is, as I record this, it's early June 2014, and the eBullet didn't come out till the end of May. Now, speaking of the eBullet, if any of you are subscribers or you know somebody who is a subscriber, or if you're not, you should subscribe, but there was a little bit of trouble trying to email out the eBullet this time. It comes out every other month. And so it was sent out several different times. So if you got it more than once, I want to apologize. And if you didn't get it at all, I definitely want to apologize, because it's a possibility that with all the different mailings I did, you still didn't get it. So if you didn't get it, you can still head over to the website. If you go to imayberry.com, you'll see a link to the eBullet right there on the front of the page, and you can go there and read it for yourself. Because we're not going to cover it all. We never do. I just give you a little bit of tidbits of things that Jim has made up, and these are not made up. He found, Jim Clark, our presiding goober for the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club, found these items, dug and worked hard to make all of us Mayberry fans have a good time reading his newsletter that he's able to put together for us. And I'm always very thankful that he's willing to let us use some of that content right here on the podcast. Now, what I usually do is hit the high points of some of the things you'll find there in the eBullet. So let's start rolling down through here, because we can check out Floyd's Barbershop Bulletin Board. Now, that's something, if you've never done that, you need to check it out, because there's Mayberry events. If you've listened to the podcast the last few weeks, I've been hitting some high points from the events I've been to recently. Well, if you want to find out about events in your area, drop by. Again, you can head over to imayberry.com and click on the eBullet link, and you'll be able to read all about events that are coming up. And those same events, if you go and check out the website for the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club, if you go check that out, you can click on the eBullet link, or you can also go up into the calendar link, and it'll take you to the calendar. That's an updated version of the calendar that you'll find in every issue of the eBullet. So that's how you find out about the events that are happening in and around the Andy Griffith Show Mayberry community. And you'll be able to find out, because there's stuff coming up, and it's June right now, so it's what is it, the 9th of June. So coming up real soon here, you'd be able to see James Best perform. James Best, Ruscopy Coltrane from Dukes of Hazzard. But he, of course, was Jim Lindsay on the Andy Griffith Show. He's going to be performing his one-man Best in Hollywood show coming up at the Globe Theater. Where else would you find out about stuff like that? It's not that easy to find it. That Betty Lynn's going to be at the Mayberry, at the Andy Griffith Museum in Mount Airy, North Carolina on June 20th. There's just all kinds of information that if you'll just go over there and read it for yourself, because if you're hearing this later, this information won't be good for you then. I'm just giving you a little bit of tidbits so that you'll know. For instance, in August, the 22nd and 23rd of 2014, Rodney Dillard and Maggie Peterson, that's Rodney Dillard and Charlene, the Darling girls. That's one of the Darling boys and Charlene They're going to be in Troy, North Carolina, doing an event there that you definitely want to be a part of. It's a big cruise in Troy, Oakboro, North Carolina. There's all kinds of stuff going on. So you definitely want to check these things out. And, of course, Mayberry Days, all the information about that is always there. And there's also a big Mayberry cruise coming up later this year. Man, there's just so many things. Don't miss out. I really want you to go to one of these Mayberry events because I just know how much you're going to enjoy them. Now, what the focus of tonight's show is news of cast and crew. So we're going to head over there and read. I guess we're not going to listen to it. But we're going to be having a little bit of fun with news of cast and crew. So I'm going to have a little background music. There we go, a little swing music. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, news of cast and crew. This is from the end of May 2014. So here we go. The cage sure looks awful empty. That's a quote from the Andy Griffith Show. Ron Howard and his wife Cheryl are selling their lakefront estate in Greenwich, Connecticut, where they have lived for 20 years and raised their 4 children. The estate is 17,200-foot Victorian main house, has 23 rooms, including 6 bedrooms, 5 full baths, and 4 half baths. Poor Horatio, those half a bath. Never seen one, Pa. Oh, man. It's a 2-story. It's got a 2-story library and an office, a 14-seat movie theater, a gym, a sauna, yoga studio, a solarium, an indoor saltwater pool, similar to the one on Cocoon. The main home also has 7 fireplaces and a wine cellar. Any old tramps down there? Oh, me. The 32-acre property, which is part of a gated 1,500 Conyers farm development, and is also a working farm that spans Connecticut and New York state line, and the city limits of Greenwich and Armonk. I'm sure I didn't say that right. Is offered by Sotheby's and other agents, possibly including Fife Realty, for $27.5 million. So you have that just laying around. Head on over, and you can own Ron Howard's home. The estate features a 2-bedroom, 2,500-foot guest cottage. It's got a guest cottage that's 2,500 square feet. Wow. An indoor sports complex with a full tennis court and a half basketball court, and an observatory silo with a professional telescope, sauna, barns, paddocks, whatever a paddock is. I'm not even sure what that is. I grew up in Alabama. We don't have those. Or if we do, I don't know what they're called. A pond with ducks and a waterfall, heated outdoor swimming pool, greenhouses, an organic vegetable garden, possibly with spinach that Opie planted, and formal boxwood and rose gardens. No football allowed in the rose gardens. There's also riding and walking trails and a horse training area. Lots of properties animals. Includes a 15-year-old tortoise named Ralph, and will likely stay with the property when it sells. Oh, and a bird named Rover. Best bird names such as Dickie and Winkin', Blinkin', and Nod were already taken, so they named the bird Rover. Don't worry, though. When the house sells, Ron won't be having to move into the corner room at the Y in Raleigh. He and Cheryl will be keeping their homes in Los Angeles, Manhattan, and Paris. Don't the trees seem nice and full? Amid his editing in the heat of the sea, Ron recently made time in New York for some sightseeing, including the Statue of Liberty, a gala fundraiser at the Art Production Fund. He was also featured speaker at the Tribeca Film Festival, which brother Clint Howard also attended because a film he's in was featured at the festival. That was in New York in April. Ron was likewise a speaker for the Distinguished Speakers Series in Pasadena, Redondo Beach, and Thousand Oaks, California in April, and for the IBM Starter Commerce Global Summit 2014 in Tampa in early May. And see Floyd's calendar, which is part of the I was just telling you about. Floyd's calendar listing for details about a speaking engagement as part of the Brian series in Greensboro, North Carolina, coming up in October 2014. Ron and business partner Brian Grazer have joined forces with Discovery Communications to form a new forum, a digital studio that will specialize in creating content for devices and forums other than traditional TV channels and movie theaters. The duo and their Imagine Entertainment are set to produce a new adaptation of The East of Eden. It's going to be a movie, I guess, for the big screen called East of Eden. It's a book that they're doing. Jennifer Lawrence has been announced as one of the stars. Ron is also in talks to direct a film version of Neil Gaiman's best-selling The Graveyard Book, and also possibly another best-selling book, The Truth About Harry Kubert Affair, for Warner Brothers. And a couple of other projects previously announced are also in the works. As if he's not busy enough, Ron has hinted that he's interested in starting to act again. And he was on camera during the last couple of weeks supporting the Got Your Six Veterans Assistance Program. It's www.GOTYOUR6, the number, .org. You can check that out in the eBullet there if you would like to go there and see it. He's doing that and some commercials for Macy's and its promotion that raised funds through its sales running from the Armed Forces Day through Memorial Day. That was from May 17th through the 26th. Clint Howard, Ron's brother, the generous sandwich toter Leon, he has roles in half a dozen indie films in various stages of production. Some are about to be released and one filming right now. He was also in an episode of Hawaii Five-0 that aired back in November. One of the movies, Rick's Parking is the name of it, also featured Rance Howard. Rance has a couple of other indie movies expected to be released this year, and he was featured in an episode of the Comedy Central's Kroll Show that premiered in March. Jim Navers has announced, and we talked about it just recently, that this past weekend's Indianapolis 500 was his final time singing back home again in Indiana. A cherished tradition for that race for 42 years. Jim's also announced, ladies and gentlemen, start your engines at the start of this race. Jim, who turns 84 on June 12th, 2014, is officially retiring from all performing and plans to enjoy spending even more time relaxing and cultivating good life on his plantation in Maui. Ronnie Shell, he was in 2 Andy Griffith Show episodes, and he was Duke Slater on Gomer Pyle USMC, completed a stint at Harrah's Improv Comedy Club in Las Vegas last week. He'll be bringing laughs to Harvey's in Lake Tahoe in July. Rodney Dillard, the guitar playing singing version of the Darling Boys, has been on the go for much of the spring, appearing everywhere from Mayberry Comes to Westminster in South Carolina to the Tri-Cities in Tennessee, and from Mayberry in the Midwest in Danville, Indiana, with TV sister Maggie Peterson, to the Star Theater on his home stomping grounds of Branson, Missouri last week. In addition to her performance of Love Letters with Ronnie Shell in Mount Airy on Valentine's Day, and Mayberry in the Midwest with Rodney in May, Maggie was at the Missouri Cherry Blossom Festival with Morgan Brittany, who played Mary Alice Carter. They were there in April. Their appearances included a panel discussion about their time on the Andy Griffith Show that was moderated by the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Club's very own Paul Mulick, from the Hear That Boys, No Yelling at the Table chapter of Joplin, Missouri. Morgan is also gearing up for touring and media appearances to promote her new book titled What Women Really Want, which is being released the week before Mayberry Days in September. Margaret Carey, she played Bess Muggins, if I can talk, and Helen Scobie. She's been busy, as usual, with lots of Disney-related appearances. You can keep up with her, if you can, because she's very busy, at her website. It's called TinkerbellTalks.com. You can head over there and check it out. Jackie Joseph, that's Ramona Ankrum, has been active with show business gatherings. She's very involved with SAG-AFTRA, A-F-T-R-A, and also events, fundraisers, and advocacy for animals. She helped her dear friend Doris Day celebrate her 90th birthday in April, and she's currently on a 17-day Doris Day cruise from L.A. to New York in May. They passed through the Panama Canal around May 23rd, by the way. Jackie also continues to write a column once a week, or once or twice a month, for the newspaper where she lives. The 27th annual Uncle Jesse's Big Bass Classic honoring Denver Pyle was held the first week of May in Paris, Texas. The event is always filled with fish tales about big and smallmouth bass, but no reports so far about that most elusive creature of all, Ernest T. Bass, a.k.a. the lovable loudmouth bass. Leroy Mac McNeese, he's the Drobo player from the Mayberry's Country Boys that were recording there in Floyd's Barbershop. He has already had several bluegrass and gospel performances this year, mostly in the southeast United States, but also one with Almost Bluegrass at Festival Atlanta. I'm sure I'm not saying this right. Atitlan. Attilan, I like it that way. That was near Santiago Attilan in Guatemala. So you can all call in with your corrections of my pronunciations. On we go. George Lindsay Jr. That's the son of our very own goober, George Lindsay, was featured as a monk in Incorruptible, a dark comedy about the Dark Ages, at the LAPC Theater in Woodland Hills, California in March and April. And George's sister, George Jr.'s sister, Camden Gardner, represented the Lindsay family at another successful George Lindsay UNA Film Festival in Florence, Alabama in March. Karen Knotts has also had several performances of her Tied Up in Knots stage show so far this year, including at Mayberry Comes to Westminster in early May. And she has more shows coming, including Mayberry Days. Again, you can check out the calendar that I was telling you about at the beginning and see even more stuff. We're sad to note the passing of 3 people with Mayberry connections since the last issue of the eBullet. Nancy Malone, who played high-tech matchmaker Edith Gibson in A Girl for Goober. That was episode number 248 and the last episode of the Andy Griffith Show filmed. She passed away in May at City of Hope Medical Center in California from pneumonia and complications from a recent battle with leukemia. She was 79 years old. She was born Anne Maloney on March 19th, 1935 on Long Island, New York. She began to work as a model at age 7 in ads for companies like Kellogg's and Ford Motors. In 1946, she was selected to represent, quote, the typical American girl, end quote, on the cover of Life magazine's 10th anniversary issue. She soon made the transition to acting and first finding success in TV soap operas and then on stage. She made her Broadway debut at age 15 as Ginger in Time Out for Ginger, with which she also toured the country for a year. She continued to work on stage and in television. Her most extended acting role on TV was as Libby Kingston in 51 episodes of the hit series Naked City on ABC from 1958 to 1963. She was nominated for an Emmy for the role in 1963. Other TV works ranged from Bonanza, The Rockford Files, The Twilight Zones, and Hawaii Five-0. On the big screen, she appeared in The Man Who Loved Cat Dancing with Burt Reynolds in 1973. That year, she also founded Women in Film, a nonprofit organization devoted to helping women advance in entertainment and the media business. In 1975, Nancy founded her own production company, Lilac Productions, which produced several TV movies, including 1976's Sherlock Holmes in New York. During that era, she was also hired to direct as Director of TV Development at 20th Century Fox, and then soon after was promoted to Vice President for Television Production. In 1986, she joined Aaron Spelling's production as a director. Among the shows she directed for Spelling were Dynasty, Hotel, Melrose Place, and Beverly Hills 90210. She also directed episodes of Cagney and Lacey, Star Trek Voyager, Touched by an Angel, and Dawson's Creek, among many others. She received Emmy nominations for her directing work on the series Sisters and for The Trials of Rosie O'Neill. And she won an Emmy for producing a special, Bob Hope, The First 90 Years, in 1993. Nancy also continued to direct stage productions, and she taught at UCLA and New York University as well as in Ireland. Nancy Malone's talents, hard work, and versatility took her to great heights and in fascinating and productive career on the stage and both in front of and behind the camera. She was beloved by all who knew her and worked with her. And though her only appearance on the Andy Griffith Show was the last episode ever filmed, she was clearly a match made for Mayberry. She is survived by her longtime collaborator and close friend Linda Hope, adopted daughter of Bob and Dolores Hope. Donations in Nancy's memories may be made to the City of Hope, to Directing Workshop for Women, or to Performing Animals Welfare Society. The eBullet normally limits itself to coverage of only the Andy Griffith Show itself, but we want to make mention of a couple of recent deaths connected to two TV shows most closely related to the Andy Griffith Show. Med Flory, who played a memorable Monroe Elford, Luann Poovey's hometown boyfriend in 2 episodes of Gomer Pyle USMC, passed away from a heart attack at his home in North Hollywood, California on March 12th, and he was 87 years old. He was born Meredith Irwin Flory on August 27th, 1926 in Logansport, Indiana. He began playing clarinet at age 9, but eventually switched to alto sax, the instrument that would make him a jazz legend. He served in the U.S. Army Air Corps in World War II, and then he graduated from Indiana University. He moved to New York to play jazz before settling in Los Angeles in the 50s. In the early 60s, he began to take acting roles, in part to support his interest in music. Many of his roles were uncredited in his early days of acting, but he eventually earned larger parts on his way to appearing in almost 100 television episodes and a few films, most notably The Nutty Professor with Jerry Lewis. But Med's passion was his music, and he played in the big bands of Woody Herman, Ray Anthony, and others. He later formed his own big band, Jazz Wave. Some members of the Jazz Wave also performed as a 9-piece ensemble called Super Sax, which Med formed with Buddy Clark in 1972. Their album, Super Sax Plays Bird, won a Grammy in 1974. Med is survived by his son Rex, daughter Ava, and 2 granddaughters. His wife of 47 years, Joan Barbara Fry, died of Alzheimer's disease in 2000. And finally, we have Hal Cooper. He was the legendary director and producer who directed 38, almost half of the Mayberry RFD installments. and about 500 installments for TV in a career that spanned 5 decades. He passed away of a heart failure in his home in Beverly Hills, California on April 11th. He was 91 years old. He was born Harold Cooper on February 23rd, 1923 in Bronx, New York. Hal began acting in radio at age 9. When a director once became ill shortly before a live broadcast, he designated Hal to direct the episode, and he was only 13 at the time. Hal enrolled at the University of Michigan in 1940 and also worked on episodes of the Lone Ranger radio show at WXYZ while he was there. After a 3-year hiatus to serve as a lieutenant in the Naval Reserve during World War II, Hal finished his degree in 1946. He and his first wife, Pat Minkle, worked at Dock Street Theater in Charleston, South Carolina. The couple then went to New York to perform in their early days of television. In fact, their first TV venture, a show for young children called Your Television Babysitter. It aired on the first full day of programming on the Dumont Television Network in November the 1st, 1947. So would begin a 49-year career in television. After directing daytime TV in New York for much of the 50s, Hal moved to Los Angeles and to primetime shows, starting with top ranks with shows like Dick Van Dyke's Show. He directed drama and comedy, but he became known for his touch with sitcoms. A list of the shows for which he directed at least 24 episodes each could provide a nice resume for at least half a dozen directors. I Dream of Jeannie, he did 54 episodes. That Girl, 23. Mayberry RFD, 38. Courtship of Eddie's Father, 27. Maude, 126 episodes. Give Me a Break, 81 episodes. Dear John, 67 episodes. Wow. He was also executive producer for dozens of episodes of Maude, Empty Nest, Dear John, and Give Me a Break. When season 2 of Mayberry RFD comes out on DVD, watch for Hal in a cameo role as the head waiter at Morelli's in the episode Goober and the Telephone Girl. We believe Hal is the only director of an episode of The Andy Griffith Show or Mayberry RFD to be seen or heard in that same episode, other than Howard Morris as the voice of Leonard Blush and as George the TV repairman. Hal Cooper enjoyed a prolific career as a respected director and producer, and we're lucky that he was trusted to guide the story of Mayberry in its years after Andy Griffith turned the role over to Ken Berry. Mayberry was left in good hands. Hal Cooper is survived by his son, 2 daughters, and a grandson. So, all right. So that's news from the cast and crew, and let me give you a little bit of a chapter update now. So the chapter update, this one won't take too long. There's just one chapter that's been started since the last issue back in March 2014 of the eBullet. I always love to give out the chapter names because I just think they're fun. The chapter is Maggie, Kitty, and Me. Golly. I don't know where that came from, but I love it. But here's what I really like about it. This chapter was formed on the Hessian-Bavarian border in Germany. That's right, folks. This is from across the pond. You know, he is one heck of a soldier over there. So, from the Hessian-Bavarian border in Germany, Maggie, Kitty, and Me, golly, chapter makes our 1420th chapter of the Andy Griffith Show Real Nurturers Club since its founding back in 1979. Woo! Big news. That's awesome. Folks, and if you go and check out the eBullet, which I hope you will, you'll be able to see all the wonderful things they've got there. For instance, the brand new episodes of Mayberry RFD on DVD. Yay! That's right. We've been waiting for this for years, folks. Mayberry RFD is on DVD, and now you can head over there and get your own copy. That is just amazing to me that we finally get to get that. So head on over there and check it out. And while you're there, you might want to pick up the book, A Guide to Television's Mayberry RFD. It'd be a great companion to having the Blu-rays, or not Blu-rays, but the DVDs. And while you're there, you might want to check out Andy Griffith Show Season 1 on Blu-ray. Now, I can't imagine, I haven't seen these yet, but I cannot imagine the picture quality that must be coming out of these Blu-rays, because I know the DVDs, which I have, are amazing. So just go over there and check it out, and just look around and see what they have at Weaver's. If you're looking through the eBullet, you'll be able to see all these things there for yourself. There's thermometers, which I have one at work hanging on my wall, and that brings up a lot of fun. But just go and check it out. Let's run through a little bit of the chapter news while we're in it, and then we'll get on out of here. All right, chapter news. Several of the Andy Griffith Show Rio Ranchers Club chapters and members from at least 5 states, 5 of them, including the Hearty-Eating Men and Beautiful Delicate Women chapter from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. You better put a Buckeye in your pocket and do the end cant for a sore foot from Bessemer, Alabama. Mother figure from Huntsville, Alabama. That's me. The Briscoe of Mayberry chapter from Indianapolis, and I Ain't No Rockefeller from Bristol, Virginia, were on hand for the annual Eagles Wing fundraiser that drew hundreds of supporters to the golf tournament and banquet down in Tuscaloosa, Alabama back in April. So that was a big deal. Then we had a whole bunch of folks at the 4th annual Mayberry Comes to Westminster. They were all there. It was first weekend in May. It was a huge success and had guest stars Rodney Dillard from the Dillard Band, the Darling Boy, and Karen Knotts, Don Knotts' daughter. They were there, and it was a whole bunch of other fans too. Chapters, let's see what else was going on. In mid-May, 2 weeks after Westminster, the Mayberry Comes to Midwest Festival occurred, and we had Rodney Dillard and Maggie Peterson. A bunch of chapters showed up there as well. There were a whole lot of tribute artists there. I'm just paraphrasing this stuff. You guys can go and read it for yourself. The trivia contest at Mayberry in the Midwest was won by Mike Hallivan, who just happens to be one of the previous Super Bowl of Mayberry trivia champions from Mayberry days in Mount Airy, North Carolina. So it was great. The weekend was capped off there, as I mentioned last time, I believe, when I did our recap of the Mayberry Squad Car Nationals. It was first, this year's edition featured a fleet of 8 competitors, which I think I may have mentioned last time. Go and listen to that entire podcast if you'd like to. So the best overall in the Mayberry Squad Car Nationals was Robert and Jill Shelby's car, and he's from the Goobers Auto Dismantling chapter from West Frankfort, Illinois. So we want to thank him for being part of the show. Let's see, the obstacle course, I believe I told you, first place went to Jeff and Coy Gossett of Now You're Gonna Glenford It All Over Town chapter. Oh, that's great. Again, I just want you guys to head on out and check everything there in the bullet. There is so much there. We're running really long. Hope you're still enjoying this stuff. Here are a couple of brief things. The Mayberry chapter in Knoxville, Tennessee, they participated in a local Dogwood Arts Festival parade back in April, and they continue to have chapter meetings at least once a month. The Barney chapter from Greensboro, North Carolina, held its most recent meeting this past Saturday. Daisy, the canine host and unofficial chapter mascot, showed off her latest tricks. Her training far surpasses Barney's Bloodhound Blue. She might even be voted most likely to become charming at her obedience school. So definitely want to encourage you to head out there and check out the eBullet, folks. There is so much information in this issue. I have scratched the surface. So head over to the website. I'll have links in our show note at twochairsnowaiting.com for this episode number 283. And we'll send you directly over to the eBullet so you can read the whole thing. Don't miss a minute. Jim Clark works really hard to provide all this great information for us. And, you know, he digs you, and you should go dig him as well. So, folks, that's all I got for you tonight. So we're going to start getting this show ready to go. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you about some of the Mayberry events you may have been to. or what you think about the eBullet. We'd love to hear that because Jim needs, it'd be great to praise Jim one episode. So, folks, give me a call at 888-684-8415 or drop by twochairsnowaiting.com and you'll see all kinds of ways to get in touch with me on Facebook. You can email me, floyd@imayberry.com. All kinds of ways you'll see right there at twochairsnowaiting.com. Either any of those, I'd love to hear from you. It's always great, and thank you for spending just a little bit of your day here in Mayberry with me. We'll see you guys next week right here on Two Chairs No Waiting. Good night, everybody.